2 of Leadership Lessons with Dr. Susan Bernstein. It's my pleasure to be with you. You can find me on Crowdcast. You can also find me on YouTube. Just Google drsusanbernstein.com. I'm thrilled to share with you today about something that's really, really important for leaders. Everything I'm sharing hopefully it will you find very, very important. But this is episode 2. It's the 7 key questions to guide your leadership. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Susan Bernstein. I'm an executive coach and leadership consultant, and my mission is to help you to master the strategy and psychology to elevate your leadership. When you have the strategy and the psychology together, then you have a well-working, harmonious organization that's on purpose and achieving its results. So I love helping individuals and organizations to do that, to create that. And you'll find me at drsusanbernstein.com. So today I want to look at 4 things with you. I want to share about leaders having a lot on their minds and needing a way to simplify, and 3 key factors that all leaders need to focus on. And from those 7 questions that you can constantly ask yourself as a leader. So I want to say first that leaders have a lot on their minds. And it's all just getting more and more complex. You know, I'm constantly working with leaders who feel overloaded, like they have so much to consider. And today I'm going to be sharing a bit with you about one of my clients who I'm going to use a pseudonym and call her Amy. It's not her real name. I always keep client confidentiality. But the thing that I want to share with you about this is something that's very common to leaders, to feel overloaded, to feel maxed out, to feel like there's so much going on. And one of the things I find really helpful for leaders is to have a way to organize. So I'll be getting to that. But leaders have a lot on their mind. They have the results that they're trying to achieve for their groups, which can get really pushed to the side when there's firefighting and immediate things that happen, like an employee who is decided to quit or needs to be terminated. They've got crises with a client, and a client not paying their bills or not wanting to work with them anymore, for example. There are lots and lots of moving parts that a leader's trying to take care of, and also keeping people on a vision if they even have time to create a vision, dealing with other leaders and their competing objectives and incentives. So there's a lot to handle. And I've even had leaders confidentially tell me, gosh, you know, it was easier just being a follower. It was easier for me to just get the things done. And I understand that. I really do. I know in my own work experience, when I was in the corporate world, there were times that were so much easier to just heads down, get the piece of work done and not have to have the bigger picture or check in with other people. But there are ways to manage it. And that's what I want to help you with today. So just go back to what I was sharing with you. You need a way to simplify. Yeah. So how do you do that? Well, I look at 3 factors that I see that all leaders need to focus on. And you'll be hearing in my future webcasts much more about these 3 factors, but here are the 3 factors. I see that focusing on these 3 factors has helped my clients to streamline and simplify how they lead. The first is strategy. So strategy is where you're going, where you're headed. It's not the day-to-day. It's not the operational. And this is where people often get mixed up or confused or leave things out. It's so important to have a vision of where you're going, not just where you're going next week or next month, a year out. Beyond that, if you can, you know, however far you and your organization can see. Now, if you're the CEO, you need to, with your executive team, see way into the future. You may not need to see quite as far, depending on where you are in the organization, but you should have a good understanding of where the organization is going and heading, a vision. You don't need a map with every single step, but you need to know directionally what you're heading towards. So it is really important as a leader to think strategically, to get away from all the tactics. That's the kinds of things that you hopefully are delegating, the how to get it done, the nitty gritty, the day-to-day, but keeping the big picture strategy in mind. The second factor is your colleagues. So your colleagues it can be the people who are above you in management, assuming that there are. It can be your peers, other managers at your level, and then people who report to you, whether that's directly or indirectly. These days, there are a lot of people who need to lead without being overtly in charge. They don't have a formal title, but they still need to get things done. And those relationships are really key too. And then finally, leaders need to think about themselves and how they're doing. You know, it's a little bit like having a production line. If something goes down on a production line, so let's say that your production line, I'm hungry right now, so cookies. Your production line is making cookies, but something breaks on the production line. You have to take it out and do maintenance. But you as an individual, as a leader, whatever you're producing, whatever you're making happen, and I don't want to be so crass as to think of you as a production line that makes cookies, but whatever it is that you're doing, you're bringing a technology product to market, you're running a consulting firm, you're creating some other service or product, whatever it is that you're doing, you are the vehicle, you are the instrument. What are you doing to take care of yourself? How are you getting yourself downtime? How are you getting yourself time to think strategically? How are you getting time to interact with your colleagues and your clients? So these are the three factors that I see are so crucial. Now, there's lots and lots of things that are not encapsulated in these three factors. So for example, your clients. But your clients relate to strategy, and they may relate to some of your colleagues, and they may relate to self. So I'm not trying to boil down the ocean of everything. But when we use these three factors, we can start to see how what we need to do in our leadership. Strategy is about, so here, what I've done next is I've helped you to think about 7 questions. So you'll see that there's 2, 3, 2 questions for strategy, 3 questions for colleagues, and 2 questions for self. Are there more questions you could ask? Yes, absolutely. But these are big picture strategic questions to keep in mind that can help to guide your leadership, and using them and having them somewhere that you can look at them can help you when you feel overwhelmed, when you feel lost, when you're not sure what to work on. These are the things that you can be focused on. So strategy is about finding and following your direction, and 2 questions that all leaders need to have in mind. First is, where are we going? It's like crossing a bridge from here to there. And that bridge, you need to know where it is. Now, bridges are nice and straight, and generally, maybe there's some windy bridges, sure, but you know it's all laid out. In this case, you're laying the steps when you're the leader. You're looking ahead and placing things. So you want to know where you're headed towards so that you can bring everybody along, so you can inspire them, so you can communicate to them and let them know where they're going. And what I find hardest is leaders who are constantly changing direction, not communicating the strategy, not sure what it is. And then the people who work for them are exasperated, they're lost, they're confused, what's going on. And especially if they don't hear about changes for a few days, and then they catch up and hear about the changes, they're overwhelmed. So it's important as a leader to show people where you're going. And then how do we get there? What are the big picture steps? What if you were building a bridge and you had steps along it? You could think of a rope bridge. That's the easiest analogy I get, or metaphor I get in my mind, is that you've got a canyon and platforms on either side, and you throw rope from one side to the other, have somebody else tie it off who's on that side, or some way lasso it and get it tightened on the other side, and then create slats or steps along the way. Well, your people need to know where the steps are. Where are the big picture steps? They can fill in the details. And if you're a leader, especially if you have a team, you can delegate those pieces of filling in. But these are 2 questions you need to ask about strategy. with your colleagues. Think, now that you know where you're going, who do you need to get you there? Who are the people who are best equipped to take you to the other side of that bridge? How well are these people working together? And what resources do they need? You want to check the health of how well people are getting along, at least from time to time. Because if there are conflicts bubbling up, you need help with that. If there are people who aren't pulling their weight, you need to step up and talk to them. So there are things that you need to think about how well the people on your team or part of your bigger initiative who may be outside of your team, who may be colleagues, maybe your manager, maybe a peer who's part of a leadership team with you. How well are you all working together? And then what resources do people need to get where they're going? What are you asking for? What's in your budget? What tangible resources and intangible resources are needed to take you in the direction that you want to be in? So your colleagues are those people who help you head in your intended direction, and you want to know who's best equipped for that, how well they're working together, and the resources that they need. And then third, oh yes, you need to look after yourself as a leader in the midst of all of this. So as a leader, you can ask, what's my role in getting people across? It may be your own initiative and you're in charge of it. You're spearheading something. You're inspiring people in a particular direction. What's your role? What are the pieces? What are the elements of what you need to do to fulfill your role? And what do you need to do to be most successful in your role? So what do you need to take care of within yourself? Are there areas you need to develop? Do you need to take a professional development course? Do you need to, for example, work with an executive coach? This is a lot of the reason that people come to me in the leadership coaching that they're getting, or they find me because they realize they're missing something. And it's very often something where they're feeling insecure. They don't know their job, so they're feeling shaky and lacking confidence. But sometimes they're dealing with conflict. They don't know how to play well with their other colleagues. They may be in a very difficult political situation. So yeah, you want to be looking at yourself in the midst of all of this. So I hope you will appreciate these 3 factors. It helps to organize things down into simple numbers. So 3 key areas to look at and 7 questions to ask yourself. And now what I want to do is share with you a really brief story about my client, Amy. Again, it's a pseudonym, but I want to share with you what happened with Amy. So here's Amy's story. My client, Amy, it was brand new to her leadership role. She wound up taking it. She got added to the senior leadership team at the startup that she's at because they recognized that the operational area that she was in had really taken off and they needed her time and attention focusing on that. And they recognized how strategic her operational area was to this startup. But she didn't set out, she didn't apply to the company to be a leader. This startup is about 3 years old. She just was doing what she does. She wound up having a team for these new questions. Instead of just managing the operations and thinking, all right, am I getting this done well? She had to then connect what she was doing to the bigger, broader strategy. And at first she was really, really confused about, wait, why is the CEO who liked me before, and now that I'm on this senior leadership team, now the CEO is constantly criticizing me and asking me questions, and I'm overwhelmed and feeling like now that she had new pressures to take her, she had pressure from the CEO to take her organization of the operations to the next level and really help guide. They were so crucial. She realized her organization, her part of the organization was so crucial to the startup's future. How was she going to work with the people in her department to get her to get them to play bigger roles. And then herself, just overwhelmed. She worked for a CEO who's has a very difficult personality, extremely demanding, sometimes very harsh. So what could she do? And in our work together, I gave her the framework of those 3 elements: strategy, colleagues, and self. Part of what happened in doing that was she realized, she said, well, where are the clients? Because she had been going out to see clients all the time. And what she realized is she had to pull herself back from seeing clients because that was taking away from her own leadership. She also realized that she needed to get better at strategy and understand the bigger picture vision of where her company was headed so that she could fit her strategy. She could fit what she was trying to achieve in her operations group into the broader strategy, so that way the CEO wasn't clashing with her so much. She hadn't really taken the bigger view. She had taken the view of just her organization and didn't even see the bigger strategy view. So you always want to take strategy to the biggest perspective that you can take, not just your organization, not just your company, but even the ecosphere that your organization operates in, what's going on outside of your organization. And then she needed to take care of herself. And she started realizing, for example, and I have this happen with a lot of leaders, that she needed time to just work on her own strategy. So she carved out 2 hours a week to do that, closed the door, made herself unavailable in her schedule so that she could start to strategize. And within just 6 weeks, she started feeling so much more at ease. She started noticing that the CEO was coming questions and things just got better. So what about for you? What could you do with these 3 questions? I hope you'll find them helpful to you. And just make it back. So I want to suggest to you 2 next steps you can take in your leadership. I will always, always, always try to take this leadership lessons webcast and make it practical and useful to you. So 2 things you can do. 1, write down the 3 factors and the 7 questions for yourself and put them in a place where you're going to be reminded of them so you start using them. It can be very relaxing and stress reducing to have this framework for yourself. And I'm a big proponent of frameworks. As we get further into the leadership lessons, you'll hear more about that. But a framework is like, a structure for you to hang or put pieces in. So the structure of the 3 the 3 factors and the 7 questions, write those down so you're reminded of them. And then take any of your projects, your deliverables, your results that you're trying to create and ask yourself these questions. Write out your thoughts and your insights because I'm sure that you will have them. And I would love to know if today was useful to you or you're looking for something more, what leadership issues would you like me to talk about? Let me know at hello@drsusanbernstein.com. And you can always join me weekly. I have something called Mind Body Mondays, 9:30 a.m. Pacific on every Monday. And with that, you'll get micro shifts for resilient leaders, little techniques that you can use in 5 minutes or less to reduce stress, make you feel stronger, more confident in your leadership from the inside out, from your mind and your body working together. And then on Wednesdays, that's today, Wednesday webcast is 9:30 a.m. Pacific, and that's Leadership Lessons with Dr. Susan. You can always find out more about this by subscribing at crowdcast.io/Dr. Susan Bernstein. And if you'd like support with becoming the leader you'd like to be, I'd love to help you. You can always email or call me to apply for a complimentary consultation to talk about what's going on in your leadership. Are you feeling too much politics? Are you dealing with not understanding strategy? Are you dealing with conflict in your company? Are you lacking confidence and wanting to find confidence? Maybe you're a new leader or you're planning to step up into leadership and you're not sure how. I'd love to help you. So let's talk. You can reach me at hello@drsusanbernstein.com. And in the US, 415-508-8250. Just add a 1 at the beginning if you're calling internationally. So thank you so much for joining me for today's episode of the leadership lessons, and I hope the 7 key questions will help you. It's a joy to know you. Thanks, and I wish you well in your leadership. Take care.